Okay, hello. Hello, everybody. Anybody? Whoever's out there. Still got a setup going to work on my oil painting here. Um, I hope that hold on. Nope. There we go. Okay. I hope that I am not going to be standing in the way of the camera in particular because I'm not sitting today. I'm just standing in front of the easel. I kind of prefer to work that way, but if I keep wandering in front of the camera, somebody let me know so that I can like get a chair over here and I'll just plop myself in a spot where I'm not going to be doing that. So feel free to yell at me if that happens. Okay, so I did work on this a little bit since the last stream. A little in the face, not too much. I just added some like the warm tone that I had in the cheek here. I brought some of that into a couple other spots. Added a little bit more here. Worked on a little bit in the arm and hand, and of course all this blue and this light blue is like the hair. That's all been added on since the last stream, so I've been kind of pecking away at it a little bit, but plenty more to do. It is tacky, the paint, as it is, with oils. I didn't use any kind of fast drying medium or anything, so it might be a little kind of alla prima style painting, because there's still spots where there's some dampness in it. But yeah, there's a little bit more work I can do to her, certainly in the areas of her hair, although I have some ideas. See what I end up doing with that. Certainly a lot in the background and around her in this area. So yeah, see, I just barely touched it and paint all over my fingers. Okay, that's why I have a towel. Dedicated studio towel. Always a good thing to have. Okay, so I just gotta add just a couple things I've run out of on my palette, my blue and my white paint. I'm gonna add them here really quick. And I am out of my green too. I guess I should, thought I got that out, but yeah, it's there. Just didn't grab it yet. Okay. Blue, white, and it is humid as all get out here today. It's like maybe 60 degrees, so not terribly warm, but it's so humid. It's raining and it just feels gross. I have the windows wide open in here because it's just a world full of yuck, and it's good to have some ventilation working with oil paints anyway, but just air. I need air. Okay. I need to get a better dedicated studio fan at some point too. Just nothing, doesn't have to be anything expensive, but something would be good. All right, so if I start with one of the things I want to hit is getting some flesh tone down here. That's gonna be, oh right, that's gonna be too light. Add a little blue and purple in there. Like it can fall away quite a bit, but I don't want it to look like this isn't a part of her. So we'll get some of that. Go back in. And lost a finger up here a little bit, but definitely need my lighter color on my highlight side. So it's been an interesting few days. I've been doing some house/cat sitting for family, for my mom. She's traveling. So I was out there the beginning of last week and then a couple days this weekend again. To help take care of her cat and such. And meanwhile, while I'm there, my cat apparently has been experiencing separation anxiety and behaving inappropriately when I leave the house. So that's gonna be something I'll have to figure out. Don't want him to feel bad either. These little critters. But while I've been there, I haven't done a ton of stuff. I've done some sketching and reading a little bit and just kind of allowing myself to have some time with nothing in particular to do, which has been nice because it's like not having any pressure of needing to accomplish something while I'm there, yet there's plenty of pressure to accomplish things. I've actually today kind of is reaching that point of like pushing over the edge to a state of overwhelm. And I'm hoping the fact that like I'm kind of aware that it's happening will help me to control it and manage it, deal with it better than I might otherwise. It's just anxiety that I'm still learning how to live with, as it's been something that I've had for an incredibly long period of time, but didn't exactly understand that that's what was happening. So I never learned how to cope with it or deal with it in a very healthy way. So I'm trying to get back to being able to do that would be preferable. Nope, that was too late. I'm sure I step in front of the camera when I put paint on my brush, so apologize for that because my palette's on that side. I probably could have moved it over here, but I really kind of end up being locked into the space if I do that, so I haven't really wanted to do that. Okay, I'm not getting too worried about detail in the upper body part of her because that's going to get kind of covered in a lot of stuff over as I develop that out, so it won't really matter too much. So I was getting worried, I will admit, at the beginning of my last stream with how things were going. I wasn't sure that I was like getting to a point where it was working, but I'm feeling much better about it. I'm trying to be observant about how different brush strokes with different medium and such on them, how things affect each other. So that is hopefully working to my advantage. Alright, I do have my reference nearby, so I can look at that as I need to, which is helpful. Although I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like further away from my reference, because I'm kind of basing it off of something, but I'm not outright utilizing. I've taken quite a few departures from the original reference photograph that I had. All right. Really leaning into these cool colors. I don't know how well you can see, I just went in with a straight up light blue for highlight here over the eyes, and it's not exactly like true to real life, but it is like where the cooler light is, kind of overemphasizing that a little bit. One of the next things to do pretty shortly will be to add some more detail in the eyes. But I'm not too worried about where those will go, because I'm not adding in a pupil or iris. They're gonna stay pretty a little bit undeveloped. Okay, I am losing. I think I need to switch to a smaller brush pretty soon. I went way too light on that highlight. The highlight has to be relative to the areas around it. And I need to find a kind of happy medium there with the shade. Or tone would be more accurate. All right, that's getting a little messy. Well, at least when I come over to my palette here, you can get a close-up of my gorgeous hat which was actually knitted for me by a gorgeous friend. And I haven't worn it too often because it just hasn't been that cold. But since I have the windows wide open and it's not that warm, seemed like an appropriate occasion. That was too much. Yeah, that works. That was a cheap thing to do right there, but it worked. Adding the little space between the teeth by pulling away the paint to the back of the brush. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, when I get quiet, that's generally me trying to make decisions. In my head, it's thinking, always a dangerous time when that happens. All right. Also, this little, the contrast in the, I don't know, what do you call this? Where your, the skin below your nose is meeting your lips. It's a little too strong there, so chill that out a little bit. Okay, so some of that was good. Yeah, things are happening. Right, the next thing I think I'm going to do is start working on some of the space around. And for that, I'll clean up this brush a little bit. Terpenoid. And I think I'm going to add some more medium, a little bit more oil, just like linseed oil, stand oil, and then use a smaller brush for the next part. That is what I'm thinking. And meanwhile, this brush is going to need, I think, a pretty good scrubbing after this session. I won't lie, I'm still like learning how to properly take care of my brushes when painting with oil. You know, I'm doing better job of things, but can always yet do a better job. All right, got my tiny little oil container here. Another thing I'm learning that I probably should get is they call palette cups. I do not have these things, but if I were a person who knew what I was doing, I would probably have little cups out dedicated to having a little bit of oil and a little bit of my thinner available for me to work with. But since I do not have that, and it didn't occur to me to grab anything, I'm just going to pour a few drops of it directly onto my palette. And it's not super fluid, it's pretty thick stuff, so it doesn't really, I'm not real worried about it going all over the place. It should stay pretty much where I got it. And now I'm gonna go crazy. Little palette knife to mix up. This is almost exactly, I had, these palette knives are pretty thin. I don't know if that's very visible when I hold it up. It's quite thin. I had one like this with the classroom where I do help kids with painting, and a girl, when she'd used it and was washing up and managed to cut her finger pretty good with the blade while washing it. So that is officially discontinued from the classroom for those guys. Last thing you want is the very last thing I want is for anybody to get hurt in art class. That is not what we're going for. So, you know, you gotta figure out what works for different age groups, I suppose. Heck, I hurt myself enough as it is, all by myself. That's just a thing. Alright, I'm just mixing up, trying to mix a very like dark, deep color. I was gonna try to do this without using black, but I think I might use a little black, which I rarely do, but for what I have in mind, a little bit. I hope I don't regret it. Hey, what's to be regretted? You just do the things. See what happens. Alright, yeah, I mean, it's not like, I've mixed it with a bunch of color, so it's not like it's black, but I think that'll work. But get some oil in there, make it be nice and glossy and fluid. Almost forgot what I was doing. Okay. Smaller brush. What do we got? My brushes are not in the best shape. And I got a little bit brush shamed on YouTube. Was it yesterday or the day before? And it's an older video, so I didn't go back and watch it to see exactly what they saw. But somebody's like commented, they're like, yeah, your brushes need some love. Like, don't look at my brushes. I mean, yeah, I know. I've had a lot of these brushes for a very long time, and I haven't always been a very good brush mother or person, whatever. So, they're not wrong. But yeah, I just left that be. Like, well, I don't need to be called out so blatantly necessarily. Well, it's fine. Okay. So what I kind of started to do with these color lines, which didn't work out at all. I kind of worked on some of that last stream. I've covered up a little bit of it. But I'm going to do that kind of line work with just a almost black color that will be kind of like an outline of shapes that I will go back and give glazes of colors too. So I'm gonna start on the side here where I'm not gonna destroy anything important, just to kind of get a feel for the lines and how I need to put them in and vary them. I'm using a small flat brush because I can get a more narrow line by going along the edge and then turn it to get a thicker line if I want to. That's the logic anyway. So let's do some of these shapes. I have, like, where her hair is, I kind of like what it's doing here. But I don't know, I don't know that I want to get like real detailed, like creating really beautiful hair. That's not really what I'm trying to accomplish with this painting. But I had the idea of adding something besides hair, and I might do that, at least partially. Okay, it is pretty transparent, this color layer that I'm putting down, just because I've added so much medium to it. So I'll go back and beef up sections of it. It doesn't need to be completely opaque, but transparent is not exactly what I was intending or thinking going with, which I just figured out. I kind of wish I had a longer brush for this, and the only longer brushes I have are much fatter ones, so yeah, that's something I might consider upgrading to at some point. I don't want really soft, like curvy lines either. I kind of want them to be a little bit more jaggedy. So when I was at my mom's place, I brought with me some scrap pieces of board. So like some of it's illustration board, some of it is matte board, and just started playing to use up scraps. Like, you know, it's not expensive material that I bought to create anything on, so I'm not that worried about what turns out. But I did create a couple things. Let's see if I can show it to you without it being completely... Yeah, I've got my... Yeah, not in that camera. Okay, we'll try over here. I did post this on my Instagram. It is a mixed media piece that is watercolor and ink and some acrylic pen. And I started sketching another one. I haven't done any color on it yet, but this is my sketch so far. Sorry, if you're looking on anything that isn't big, it probably looks super tiny. And I'm thinking of turning this into, like, refining it a little bit more and turning it into a painting. Like, I'll do a color study on that and then decide. But yeah, that's one idea that I have to play with. One thing that I do with a lot of paintings is crop a little uncomfortably, and that is entirely on purpose. And I know some people don't like that I do that. It's not like a proper decision in composition, I imagine, but that kind of discomfort is sort of the point of it. Which also leads me to kind of a question about what we paint, what we make. Especially in regards to myself, that's what I can truly speak about a little bit. When we create, it's sort of almost impossible to separate yourself from what you create entirely. Like, it is coming from you, it is born of you. Athena from the mind of Zeus, you know. So I guess the question being, how much do we just reflect ourselves versus maybe a kind of person that we want to be? Or a reflection of the reality that we want instead of what is? A lot of my paintings are can be seen as being dark, at least on some levels, a little bit dark in subject matter and approach, and I would be absolutely lying if I said that isn't something that has always very much appealed to me and still does, but I don't know that that's who I want to be and what I only want to make. So that's a question I've been toying with a little bit. I'd say that my last set of paintings, the 6 small ones that I did mostly on stream, those would be more aspirational. Like more about who I want to be and what I want the world to be than who I functionally am all the time. Nobody's a monolith. We're not the same thing all the time. But I don't know. Not sure if that makes sense. But that's where my mind is a little bit. Self-reflection can be weird and sometimes feels a little pretentious. So it's like, all right, what are we getting at? But that's something I don't ever really want to be or to appear as my work is pretentious, because quite frankly, I don't know what I'm doing ever, anytime, period. And I think I'm pretty honest about that. I try to be. But I don't know. I'm rambling. That's what I do. But otherwise, I have a movie recommendation. For a film that I saw this last weekend, Friday night, on the last drive-in, and it was Tigers Are Not Afraid. It is a film by a Mexican filmmaker and screenwriter, who it's about a border town, imaginary border town. It's not a real town, but it's based on things that exist and places that exist, but where cartels are very powerful and influential, and what you miss in a lot of those stories that talk about the crimes and such and violence is the children who are orphaned by the cartels and what they do. So this is a story about the kids from the children's perspective, which makes it like, it is violent and it is awful, but there is this storybook quality to it that if you were, you know, a 9-year-old living this experience, that things seem, in a way, fantastical. It's compared very much to Guillermo del Toro's style of storytelling, and I think that was a really accurate description. And it was beautifully made, very intense, definitely a little heart-wrenching, and I completely recommend it if you want to watch something a little bit different. It's somewhere between drama, thriller, crime, horror, fantasy, kind of a genre bender in that sense. Just super good. Sticks with you. It's one of those movies that, you know, you take it with you after you see it. Alright, after this line I am going to switch to a smaller brush and see how that goes. Clean this one up a little bit first. This is where it's good to have your windows open. Alright. I posted a video over the weekend where it was like an actually edited video that I made, first one in quite a while, outside of just doing the live streams like this, where I filmed different parts of doing when I changed over my studio. I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to share about, including like how much things cost and all that. So if that's anything that interests you, I don't know, check it out if you want to. Otherwise, like, I think I'm going to try to do some more, I don't know, maybe vloggy style, like edited videos to post up. I'm thinking about. I don't know. Not sure if anyone cares or is interested, but one of the things about doing this, whether or not anybody watches, is that it's accountability to myself to actually be in my studio and working and thinking through things, and hopefully having a chance to talk to and communicate with anybody who's interested in doing so. Exchange ideas. Hopefully I can give anybody some creative inspiration or ideas. I would love if that were the case. It is like best case scenario. I think the biggest question everybody always has when thinking about doing things like that is, even doing this, is am I interesting enough? Does anybody going to actually care about what you're creating or doing? But like I said, this is equally for myself. I hope that it's for other people to get value out of. That would be the main goal, of course. But in the meanwhile, it allows me some accountability to myself and you. Okay, I'm really liking doing this with a smaller brush. I probably should have just started with that, but it's okay. Oh, I just had major flashbacks to a project I did in college. Which, by the way, I got a terrible grade on. I might still have it. No, I don't think so. Yeah. I liked it. Guest instructor for a project, and I was clearly not on the same wavelength that they were. But, yeah, art school, that was a whole nother thing. And I've also got 2 books kind of going at the same time. I mean, technically a lot more than that, because I've started just an insane amount of books at this point that I haven't finished. And mean to, absolutely mean to, but recently, on a recommendation, I got this book, Refuse to Choose, which is about being what the author describes as a scanner, where you have many, many, many interests, but kind of the inability to choose or focus on accomplishing anything within those that world of interests. And what's holding me up on that one is I've reached this point where the author's like, first things first, get a journal, a dedicated journal for this. And I don't have one. So I feel like I cannot proceed with a book until I have one. So I stopped reading it until I find or acquire one. So whenever that'll be. Don't know. So in the meanwhile, I started a much smaller book because I'm like, okay, maybe if I just pick up a small book and can finish it, like it'll feel like I've accomplished something, and I will then stick to it and do some of the more 800 books that I've started reading and would like to finish one of these days. So I picked up this one that I've had for a little while. Jerry, I'm showing it to you. There we go. How to Be an Artist by Jerry Sauls, which is like one of those very highly recommended books for creatives. So I bought it, and it is like every chapter is a page or 2, so it is very quick read. Started it Saturday and got about a third of the way through it, and ultimately put it down because I kept having to put it down to write down notes of things that occurred to me while reading it. So, a good problem to have. Like, made me start thinking about things, and my brain starts going off in directions, and you're making notes to yourself, and I'm like, okay, you reach a point of saturation where it's like, okay, I can't process anymore like that tonight. I'm done. I'll come back to this tomorrow. So, I think that being that I'm a third of it, the way through it in just a little while, I'll definitely finish that one relatively soon. Yeah. I don't know what I expected when I bought that book. It's another one of those that comes up on those recommended reading lists, which I apparently am a huge sucker for, buying any books that come up that way. Not the worst thing to buy a lot of books, but the point being you have to read them at some point. That's the idea anyway, yeah. But yeah, one of these days. But yeah, I just bemoan the fact that there are no local bookstores near me. I think that's a real shame. There is a Barnes & Noble, 5 miles away? Not even. If I go in the other direction, there's another Barnes & Noble, and as well as a Half Price Books. But no community, somebody runs this place and has a vision about, providing value to the community and a love of books and all that kind of stuff. That's what we don't have, and that's what I'm sad about. I don't even know where the closest one would be. I think I'd have to get into the city. I believe anyway. It's been a little while since I've looked, but not that long. Okay, I'm just every now and again checking to make sure I'm not standing in front of the camera. There's something about walking through a bookstore, that element of discovery and surprise that you can't really replicate online. Well, there is, though, now that I think about it, in Woodstock, there's a little bookstore, which is not exactly close, but I am out that way now and again. Heard neighbors yelling at each other. Yay. Alright, yeah, books. I have so many. And a lot of them I started and they're very good, but I just get away from it. I do the same thing with TV shows. I have a really hard time watching and finishing TV shows, even if they're really good and I like them. It's just it's a lot of brain power to continue with this journey, and I think maybe I'll see about coming back to it another time. That's kind of where I end up a lot. I started a show when I was in cat sitting land, based on a book that I'd read, The Power. I may have mentioned that on stream before. It's an Amazon original based on a book that I've read. Hey, I read a book, see? Happens. So I was curious about it, and I watched the first 3 episodes, and I think it's pretty well done. There are definitely these occasions where it takes you out of the story a little bit. It's like a character practically turns right to the camera and says, "It's because sexism," which I am a full-on feminist, big time, annoy your family feminist, but that felt cheap and and unearned, and I didn't like it. Like, come on, just show me without telling me. That's just stupid. So that's, like, the acting is really good. It's Toni Collette is outstanding. John Leguizamo's in it and really good. Yeah, I have a lot of young actors and young actresses and such that are doing an excellent job of it. I don't know if I'm getting carried away with this. Maybe. It's always a possibility. But yeah, at some point, I may go back and finish the show. Perhaps. It could happen. But I am me. It might not happen. Does anybody else feel that way about shows? Like watching a show, or it's what I think I kind of prefer movies in that sense. They're a lot less what's the word? It's just not as much like just like you're convincing yourself to put the time to this one thing. Commitment. There's the word I'm looking for. My stupid brain. Commitment. Too much commitment. Yeah, that trips me up. I'm a big fan of the idea of a story that is, 8-10 episodes and it's told, it's done. Because try to convince me to watch like a 6-season show these days. Nope. I'll be in the other room trying to read a book. Yeah, my brain can be your worst enemy sometimes. Okay. I think I'm done with this black part. And I might have gone a little nuts with it, but there's going to be layers going on top of it, but I think before those layers come in, I'm definitely going to want to let it dry a little bit more, especially more than it is now. So that will take some time. Since I don't have any, not really any thinner in my medium, it will take like a decent amount of time, especially with these humid days. So that's okay. There are other areas where I have things to do and stuff I'd like to add. And I'm just now trying to think if I have a compass anywhere. I know I do. I probably have several. But where are they? Okay. I know where they are. They're in the closet, which you could luckily barely see any of behind me. When I open it, it is very terrifying. I'm going to sneak in there and grab a compass. I really need to tackle that pretty soon, but okay. Anyway, somewhere back here. Found it. All right. So bigger. We're just freewheeling some things right now. I don't know how well this is going to even show up. A little bit. That's fine. That does the trick. The things from geometry that you didn't know you'd need in life. And can't be just one. Smaller? I mean, it could just be one circle. You know what? We'll start with that because we can always add more. So let's see. Fluff your brush. Should do a circle, perhaps. That should work. Okay. Grab a little. Ooh, that's a pretty green. Too dark. Too dark. This green is from my dad's old paint palette. Because the one that I have, I don't care for. I wasn't sure how well that would hold up. Being that it's, 60 plus years old, but, it did. It wasn't completely dried out. Just fine. And we gotta go a little heavy on the paint here because what I'm painting over isn't completely dry. So it needs to be pretty thick to get me any coverage. So let me just kind of refine my shape here. Especially since I'm putting some yellow in this, and it's generally going to be a bit transparent. And this one circle on its own is probably not going to work because it could very easily become a really strong focal point. So I will likely add a couple more. But we'll start with this one for now. Let's see what happens. Okay. A little weird bump out over here. Kind of hard to tell. And smear that out a little bit. I do that like I care about how perfect it is. I definitely do not. Ooh. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read the comment. Hi, Loki, the Rescue Dog Adventures. This is a really cool channel. I love that you are showcasing your talent to the world and doing what you love to do. Keep going, your channel will pick up. Well, thank you, Loki. I appreciate that very much. Just doing. That's kind of where I'm at in general. Just doing, and whatever happens, I'm here for the ride at the moment. Okay, that color looks weird at the moment, but you know what? No, I think it's all right. Maybe a little yellowy highlight on here on the side will make it like a little bit spherical. I resisted painting with oils for so long. And once you kind of as I start to figure it out a little bit better, kind of kicking myself because it feels so much, in so many ways, so much nicer than working with acrylic paint. And they all have their pros and cons. And I still love watercolor, which is a totally different beast altogether. Yeah. Just, one of those things. I'm enjoying the process of experimenting and learning as I go. Let's see what happens. So, I look at the screen to see what it looks like. When I step back, it's sort of in a bit of a glare from the lights. All right. Try to maintain some kind of highlight on here on one side. Well, as I'm doing this without really putting a lot of thought into it, I'm realizing that I've put the highlight on the wrong side. Okay. That's okay. Can be fixed. Can be fixed by putting it on the other side and then adding more shadow on that side. Okay, so I must be tired. I tend to make some pretty ridiculous mistakes as I get tired, but that's just living. All right, shadow. Put the shadow back. In the right place this time. Even when making something that isn't exactly like in a space, there's a lot of abstraction and things happening here that are just like graphical elements or whatever. Still helps to have some kind of sensible light placement, just because you're asking everyone to buy the fact that this is not realistic already. So by not going like too crazy into the like all my light sources don't even match, we're really in another universe. I don't know, I think it just helps a little. Alright, trying to figure out where I can stand or exit. Oh my goodness, there's my cat. Hi, Watson. Right underfoot. There you go. Just like kicked him practically because I didn't know he was there and focusing. Alright. There's something happening on here that I don't like, but I always go back in and do another layer and smooth it out at some point when this is like set a little bit more. Okay, became any left? You can't get up on and walk in front of the camera very easily when I'm working at the easel. That makes it a lot harder on him to force his way into the center of attention. But he is very cute. Yeah, I would probably still add, I'll add more of a highlight yet. But it's a little too, it'll probably be easier once it dries a little bit. This started out like being basically like a yellowish underpainting, that I worked off of, and that's almost all gone at this point, because even the yellows that are here are not from that. This is from a piece that I collaged on here that actually shows crackers and cheese and meat from an old magazine. So there's certainly room to potentially add in some more yellows. Because I do usually a lot of color stuff going on. I kind of like where the color's a little bit more subtle. That's kind of working for me. And my like what I'm going to eventually do with all these shapes, as I mentioned that I was going to do a color glaze there, is like an oil slick type of approach. So glazes of those like jewel tones that you see in an oil slick. And that's kind of going to be the idea. See, it's freaking dark. It's like I'm trying not to be, but that's, I mean, this is a part of a series where I'm talking about very certain things, and that is in keeping with what this piece is meant to be about. So it's just like thinking for the future in my work, like I want there to be more hope, more humor. Like I still want to talk about real things, but I don't want it to be in a way that makes people not want to engage. I would prefer it to be something that people are, you know, curious about and want to approach. That would be the goal. And I've, at this point, essentially just moved on to the point of working entirely intuitively. Like I have no plan, but I see things that I want to do. For whatever reason. I saw, and this is another thing where I don't remember if I've talked about this before, but I saw that there are acrylic paint pens, like paint markers, not acrylic, I have acrylic ones, oil paint pens. And I'm really fascinated by that. Not that I need to be running out and spending a lot more money on more art supplies, but yeah, man, that would be kind of cool to play with. So that's on the list for eventually. More things to incorporate. It's a lot easier to go, there's my first drop for today. It's a lot easier to add a lot of different mediums in a like a mixed media way, working on paper. Not on oil-based paintings or even on canvas. That definitely adds or creates more of a limitation of what you can put on top of what. But I like the possibilities of it. I like what I can achieve with it. I like what it's capable of. And it's fun to do. Just really like knowing what I'm doing or not. I just really like to paint. I spent so much time working digitally for a while that God, I just missed being able to touch something, get my hands into it. There's like such a satisfaction with that just really missing that. And I just love how my palette doesn't dry up within like a half an hour of putting the paints on it. That was always something that kind of would stress me out working with acrylic paints. Is the idea that whatever you put on your palette, you need to use it, otherwise it's useless and it's garbage. So that added all this like pressure. And then, yeah, with the wastefulness of it, it created that kind of pressure that's almost the way that like perfectionism is, where it kind of stops you from starting. But that's not helpful. That doesn't accomplish anything. It's not what I want to happen. And like I said, kind of just making a mess now. Clean off the brush a little bit, and like a little hotter pink color to play with here. Get some oil in there. I just want to, the graphic that I have here, I want in this corner to be not white. I want it to be visible, but I don't want it to be the white of the paper, so kind of giving it some glazes. Just doing things. Whatever feels right. I got to decide if I want any more, if there's any other collage elements that are going to be important to me to include on here, because I can, once the paint is set, I can add more collage, but yeah, I'm not sure. We'll just see how it goes. If when I get to that point I feel like it's still missing something, I don't think and this is where like an oil pen or something would come in handy, where I could like draw on back into it again. All possibilities. I don't know if you can hear my cat yelling in the hallway. He's bored. He can be very dramatic. I'm not sure if the mic picks him up at all. Probably not that much, but yeah, he's out in the hallway just yelling. right outside the door. He's very, very vocal cat. Always has lots to say. Okay, let's see. If I'm going to do anything more to the face, and there might be a couple little things I do around the eyes, and maybe, I think I'd like it to be a little bit more set. And I'll use a very small brush to get some little details, but I'm not too, I don't even know if I want to do that. Maybe. That's something I'm gonna probably have to like kind of think on for a little bit. Make that decision. I might, because she's gonna be the most figurative element in the piece, so she could be the like. I'm not a big fan of going for like hyper realism or anything, but I could make her a little bit more detailed. And then decide if I want to paint in something else more specific. But I'm kind of leaning towards, not at this point, but it's always like that. Once it gets to the point that I'm done working on it today, walking away, kind of digesting it in my brain and deciding all kinds of things can work as tools. This little brush here, there we go, tiny brush. This is eyeliner brush, like a very cheapo eyeliner brush from the drugstore. And it's kind of nice for just doing some random little thing. Like if I want to just take a little bit, like super light blue. This is getting into the details where I probably don't need to do just yet, but I can always erase it out. The little like eye reflection. I'm using my arm to study. They have those things, I think they're, I just read it. What was it called? The sticks that artists use to like, start with an M? I don't remember now. Go figure. But yeah, I have a tendency to use my arm as like the studying thing for my hand. Because I can be a little shaky, especially when it comes to details. So to study, I just use my arm, just lean it against something. Get some little kind of highlight marks there. Make her eyes look a little, even more ghastly a little bit with that. I might build up a little bit more pink. I mean, I think I definitely need a little bit more shadow around the eye as I'm looking at it, but I might build a little more pink in here. Probably through some glaze. But as long as we're doing this. So I'm using like a not quite black color in kind of my very small brush. Only in the areas where I don't want to like go back in and do any more rework. least smart thing to do is to add in details in a place where you're not done, because then you're gonna have to go back and rework all that, cover it up, whatever. Which is never a efficient use of time. Yeah, that eye's kind of working for me. Just about. This other one, though, will need a little bit more. It will need some washes here, so I'm not really going to do much else to it at this point. Okay. All right. Well, 'tis 8:22. So about an hour and a half in, and I think I'm at a point where I'd like to let some things set a little bit before I do much more add-in and kind of chew on where I am in the brain and decide what my next steps will be. What, if anything, other elements I want to add besides doing some of the washes and a little bit more detail in a few spots once I'm ready for it. So, yeah, I think I might call it. I'll be back in here on Thursday morning, and depending on how set this guy is to continue on, I'll either be working on this or something different. Could be a completely different painting. I'm not certain yet, so I will be continuing on something for sure Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Time. So hopefully you'll join. If you'd like to have notifications of when I'm going live, just, subscribe, hit the bell, and then you'll get notified when the streams are happening. They're usually at the same time every week, though. So thank you for joining. Thank you for keeping me company while I'm painting tonight, and I hope you have an awesome creative week with lots of ideas and inspiration and good energies. So good night, everybody. Good night, good night.